We are back once again on the R2F Sports channel. For today's video, we'll be going through some Premier League predictions for Game Week 9. Got a lot of really big games, so let's get right into some action. For our first game, we have Arsenal versus Aston Villa. This game is being played at Arsenal. Arsenal had an interesting showing last week. They kind of struggled for that middle period of the game. The first 10, 15 minutes looked great, scored a goal, then got scored on within this 50-minute period or 60-minute period. Looked pretty bad throughout this whole time, just not having much possession, just having very poor shots on target, conceding a lot of chances as well. And then they had this period towards the end of the game, last 10, 15 minutes, where they actually played really well when Martinelli came onto the field. So they should definitely be interesting coming into this game. Villa, on the other hand, just I don't know what happened to them. They got scored on 3 times in the last 20 minutes of the game. So that's something to definitely look at if their defense is willing to hold up. I think their defense will do a bit better this game, but I think they'll still have a bit of an issue with Aubameyang. Aubameyang scored 3 goals in the last 5 games. So I think he definitely could pose as a problem for Aston Villa. This game's definitely very even. If I'd probably stay away from it for betting wise. So I'm going to give this game a 1-1 draw. On to the first game of Saturday, we have Chelsea versus Norwich. This game should be pretty one-sided towards Chelsea. Norwich, I did correctly predict them getting a draw last week, so I don't think they're going to get much out of this game. Chelsea are a much dominant side. They just played a European game against Malmo and absolutely crushed them. Jorginho had 2 goals, but I believe both Lukaku and Timo Werner came off with an injury in the game. So we'll see how that impacts fantasy Premier League this week, or even Chelsea's attack going into this game, not having a first choice striker for coming into this week. But I don't think it's going to have too much impact. Chelsea did look like they got dominated last week against Brentford, but that's just nothing against Brentford. But Chelsea should have probably done better that game, but I think they'll be fine in this game. I think probably Kai Havertz is probably going to score a bunch of goals. You've got Mason Mount coming back who creates some chances for them. I do think he's quite an overrated player, but he does seem to be pretty instrumental for them for at least going forward in attack. So I'm going to give Chelsea a big win in this game. I'm going to have them win this game 4-0. On to our next game of Saturday, we have Crystal Palace versus Newcastle. Crystal Palace very unlucky last week. This is the second time they've dropped points in the last minute of the game. Obviously, I'm a Palace fan, so I'm just gutted about that final goal scored against us. We've been robbed 4 points this season just because of poor defending and unable to clear the ball. So Palace should be a lot higher up in the table, should be on 12 points, but they're currently sitting on 8. So Newcastle, on the other hand, kind of struggling so far this season. I believe they have 19 goals against them. So I'm expecting Palace to score a decent amount against Newcastle. Newcastle offensively haven't looked too threatening, but Callum Wilson is back, did have a goal in the first 2 minutes of the game, so he might be able to put something through. But I think Palace will look pretty dominant. I believe Zaha will be back for this game, so that's definitely something for Palace's attack. I think Michael Olise has to start this game as well. He came on for 15, 20 minutes and immediately made an impact, having an assist that went to Edouard. So I think Palace will probably win this game. I have them win this game 2-0. Next up, we have Everton versus Watford. Now, Everton, kind of unlucky, lost 1-0 last week to West Ham. Everton, it did look fairly even, though. Ogbonna, I believe, just put away a goal. Both sides had like 16, 17 shots. So it was a very attack-heavy game. It was just which team was going to concede first, and that just happened to be Everton. So unlucky on them. I believe West Ham had a majority of the possession, so just unlucky for them. Everton still without a starting striker. Richarlison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin both out. So we'll be patiently awaiting the return of one of those 2 players, especially for Fantasy Premier League, because having at least one of those guys is great. They seem to score, get an assist a decent amount of the time. Watford, on the other hand, Claudio Ranieri's tactics, just nothing happened. Obviously, it's the first game he's come in, and you're playing against Liverpool, so it's a very tough opponent. I don't think Watford's going to get much out of this game. Everton obviously has pretty big favorites in this game. Watford, and I don't know what to expect out of them with Ranieri, especially with that what happened last game. So I'm going to give Everton just a pretty big margin here. I'm going to have them win this game 3-1. Next teams we have playing, we have Southampton versus Burnley. Burnley looked pretty good defensively against Man City last week, only conceding 2 goals. I believe I had City scoring 5 against them last week, and so they they had a little better defensive record than I thought they would have. So they allowed 2 goals, which is pretty good. Southampton on the other side, they've looked pretty good so far this season. The non-relegation zone right now, obviously it's like 4 points, so there's only 3 teams down there right now. They're looking pretty obvious right now, but things could change later. Of their last 5 games, they've had 4 games only decided by 1 goal. So that's definitely something interesting to look at. Defensively, they look great. Livermento's been a fantastic signing for them at that right back position. So definitely looking forward to seeing more of him this game. I think he should have a great impact on this game. Fantasy wise, I think he's a good safe bet to bring in. He seems to get decent amount of clean sheets because of that defense. And yeah, they seem like a great defensive team. I think they'll repeat last week's results and also win this game 1-0. Next up, we have Leeds versus Wolves. Now, Leeds are an interesting team, not the greatest defensive record so far this year. Wolves, on the other hand, they've had 16 total goals for and against them within these 8 games. So it's like 2 goals a game. But last game, there was 5 goals in their game where they miraculously came back against Aston Villa. So that should definitely be something interesting to look at. I think Wolves will come out pretty hot in this game, but I think Leeds will I think their defense will come through and save a couple of chances for them. This game should be pretty close, though. It's kind of hard to pick one side or the other. Both sides are pretty good in terms of attacking potential and defensive potential. I think Wolves definitely has had a lot of better results, hence the table. I think they have 12 points or something like that. Leeds, on the other hand, on around 6 points. So definitely a poor start for them so far this season. This game definitely should be close. I have it going down as a 2-2 draw. Definitely would like to see more of Jimenez, who only played like 6 minutes last game. For final game of Saturday, we have Brighton versus Manchester City. Brighton, I believe, had 3 straight draws. I did correctly predict them to draw against Norwich, which is just an absolutely horrid result for them, considering how good a form they've been on this season. I think they will struggle a lot against Manchester City. City have been known to play with their foot a lot in terms of how they approach teams on the lower half. So I think that will be something like this game. I think City will get an early goal. Obviously, Gabriel Jesus is back for them, so that's huge. It all depends on who Manchester City start. They have just a wide abundance of players. We didn't see Grealish last week, so I think we'll see him play this week. Bernardo Silva could play, Gabriel Jesus could play, Ferran Torres could play. You just have such a wide range of players that could play in this game. So I think City is going to come out just kind of thrash Brighton in a way in terms of possession. I think City's going to have over 70% possession in this game and come through with a 3-0 win. For first game of Sunday, we have Brentford versus Leicester. Now, Leicester just came off a ridiculous game against Spartak Moscow in the Europa League. Patson Daka, of all people, just had four goals. He had 4 goals against Spartak Moscow. I think this is one of his first starts for Leicester as well. He's been very underutilized since they bought him from RB Salzburg. He's a great player, and I think he should definitely deserve a start, at least in this game, just based on the 4-goal result he had just Wednesday. So that's definitely something interesting for Leicester. Leicester do have one of the worst defensive records in the league. I think they have 14 goals against them, so they're definitely bottom 5 in terms of defense. That's very disappointing so far this season. Brentford, on the other hand, had a great result against Chelsea despite losing. Outshot them. I think they had around similar possession. So it's definitely a great result considering Chelsea is top the league right now. So I think Brentford definitely could score some against Leicester, considering their defensive record. Patson Daka obviously needs to start for Leicester just based on that last game. Whether you start Vardy or Iheanacho, it's up in the air, but Leicester should definitely score a few against Brentford. I have this going down as a really high scoring game. I always have one of these games where I try to predict a 3-2 game. So I think this game will go 3-2 to Leicester. For a penultimate game of the week, we have West Ham versus Spurs. Now, this game fairly interesting. I mean, they're all fairly interesting, but in terms, we have our first London derby of the week. We West Ham obviously last week came off a 1-0 win. Big win for them as they've been kind of struggling the last 5 weeks after their miraculous start to the season, being top of the league and everything. So I think this is definitely a game where they need to come out and show that they are still a good team. Um, Spurs, on the other hand, they've had some good results recently. I believe they're on 2 straight wins right now, with last week coming off a 3-2 win. We need to see more of the Son to Kane connection, though. That was such a great connection last year for Fantasy Premier League. So definitely something that should happen in this game. I think Ben Rama will come away with the 1 goal for West Ham in this. Spurs seem to concede just some decent goals from midfielders. So I think he will have a goal in this game. Spurs, obviously, Son Kane, we want them scoring. I have Son currently in my Premier League team right now. So I have Spurs coming away with this win. I have them win this game 2-1. For last game this week, we got a massive game, massive rivalry. We got Manchester United versus Liverpool. This is the predictions everyone's been waiting for. You have two of the biggest teams, two of the biggest clubs playing against each other. Manchester United just off the back of a huge win. Last goal from Cristiano Ronaldo, just on his knees celebrating, just looking up at the sky. It was a great win for them. Obviously, the fans are still wanting Ollie out. I don't blame them. He seems to not know anything about his tactics or what position or players to play with each other. Whether it's just they're still figuring it out, or I don't know what's going on there. Obviously, had that terrible loss to Leicester, losing 4-2. They're just kind of all over the place. I know they're officially top their group now, I believe, or second to Villarreal. But they've just been terrible this year in terms of expectations. Currently sitting fifth in the league, I believe, fifth or sixth. So it's just not where they want to be, though. They're 4 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses in the league. It's just poor. They haven't played anyone all season. Best teams they played are West Ham and Leicester. So Liverpool, on the other hand, having a great year. Their Salah is looking like player of the season, potential Ballon d'Or winner. So yeah, you heard it first. Ballon d'Or winner for him if he can keep this up. So his form's been fantastic. I believe has goal and assist in most games this season. So I think he's going to come out huge in this game. I don't know if United's ready for quite a game like this. They haven't played any top class opponent yet this season. So Liverpool, on the other hand, they've played Chelsea, they played City, they've just played a abundance of good teams. So I think they'll come into this game ready to go. So I think Liverpool will come out dominant. Salah, it's Salah. He's going to score or he's going to contribute somehow. So I think Mane will kind of struggle with this game. He's on Wan-Bissaka's side. Obviously, they have him push up more. So yeah, I think Mane won't do anything. I think this game's going to be all Salah. Luke Shaw's been kind of struggling in the back line with Rashford playing in front of him. He's been pushing up a lot, just leaving that side wide open. No Rafael Varane. Maguire's looked terrible in the back in terms of his defensive stance so far. So I think Liverpool will put a decent amount past United. I have Liverpool win this game 3-1. Those have been my Premier League predictions for Game Week 9. Obviously, if you disagree, leave it in the comments below. I know there's going to be a lot of disagreement on the Liverpool United game. So feel free to have your say in that in the comments. Also, comment down below some players you're looking to bring in for fantasy. What I'm looking at some Chelsea defenders, Palace defenders. Obviously, you want City defenders. You want Salah on your team. Obviously, you want potentially bring in Son if you don't have him. So you got a lot of good players. If you have any sneaky players, make sure to comment them down below. As always, if you enjoy this content, please feel free to leave likes and subscribe to the channel. With that, see you guys next time.